ॐ नमो नारायणाय ॐ नमो नारायणाय
Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So we're continuing on with our going through Smarta Puja, a Smarta ritual. And we were up to the aims of Puja. So we're looking at the aims now. So aims of Puja. At the beginning of the puja, its performance has to be declared by the sankalpa or vow formula, which specifies the kind of puja that is going to take place and the fruit that is desired. According to the Dharma Shastras, the sankalpa is necessary for the performance of all religious acts, including the daily bath and handing over of gifts. In strict theory, a rite yields its complete fruit only when it is performed consciously. Contrary to this, many popular stories tell about people who gained much reward by unconsciously fulfilling the conditions of a vrata or vow. In any case, the conscious performance of a rite yields more reward. So we have the example of a famous story of a hunter who gained merit of Shivratri Vrata by unconsciously fulfilling the rulings laid down for this vrata by staying awake all night in a tree and picking bilva leaves from the tree and throwing them down unconsciously onto a lingam at the base of the tree, etc. So let's continue on. The wishes pronounced by the worshipper in the sankalpa formula of the daily puja are of general nature and pre-given to the text of the puja, which cannot be deliberately altered. I shall perform puja for obtaining for myself the fruit which is vouched for, in the Shruti and the Puranas, for obtaining for us with family and dependents, with bipeds and quadrupeds, increase of happiness, stability, long life, health, wealth, and for an all-out prosperity, for the satisfaction of the noble deities, so and so. So that's a quotation. Naimitika pujas which are done occasionally, right, on different occasions, have their specific pre-given declaration formulas which slightly differ. Optional or kamya pujas, which are done for a specific desire, are characterized by the desire for the fulfillment of a particular material wish or the declared aim to harm others in such acts as the satkarmas or black magic. The sankalpa is, in a sense, completed in the dedication, samnyasa or samarpana, at the end of the puja, which expresses the wish that the deity be pleased with the worship and includes the dedication of the fruits of the ritual to Brahman, the highest principle. Without this dedication, the worshipper cannot obtain any result. This is not only in spite of his dedication of the merit, but because of it that the ritual is believed to bear fruit which is desired by the devotee. The deity, having accepted the offerings of the puja, which are given in the same manner as to a distinguished guest, has thereby been connected with the devotee and, being pleased, is bound to fulfill his wishes. The devotee offers to his god and thereby adds to the god's power that he may be able to give, and that the life process may not stagnate because of any lack of potency. This exchange is also indicated by the practice of returning a part of the offering brought to the temple by the devotee. After the puja, the food offered to the idol, naivedya, becomes God's grace, prasada, and is eaten by the worshippers with devotion, who thereby earn merit and communicate with God. The water used in bathing the idol is looked upon as sacred water or tirtha, and is drunk. The flowers offered near Malya are placed on the head, and in all these cases, the devotee partakes of the leftovers or chista of the deity in the belief that it will enable him to obtain power. As the daily puja, and to a certain extent, also the Naimitika pujas are done by duties of the householder enjoined in the Dharma Shastras, the omission of which would be an offense, for which atonement prayaschitta is due, the devotee cannot expect the fulfillment of special desires from the performance of these rituals, although he pronounces general wishes for his well-being. In spite of this fact, these types of pujas are said to be beneficial to the worshipper on a material as well as spiritual level. According to popular beliefs recorded in Bhakti Prakash, page 80, 22 to 27, quoting Brihad Naradiya Purana, the devoted performer of Shiva or Vishnu's puja is always surrounded by Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, and by all other gods. He is protected from fire, thieves, ghosts, and influence of evil heavenly bodies. But the extraordinary results on the material level, wealth, offspring, victory, heavenly pleasures, vouched for in the Puranas and other texts, refer to the optional or kamya puja, the performance of which is selected by the devotee according to the result they promise. But apart from the worldly enjoyment, bhukti, the Puranas claim the attainment of liberation, mukti, through practicing pujas and vratas. The results of the performance of pujas are further said to exceed those of the complicated Vedic sacrifices. This problem needs further discussion. According to some authorities like Shankara, there is no way to liberation, moksha or mukti, except by knowledge. Others state that mere knowledge does not lead to moksha. Thus, Lakshmidhara, explaining Bhagavad Gita 3:3 to 3:9, quotes Yogin Yajnavalkya, who argues that karma and jnana should be applied together, and condemns the view that liberation is to be achieved by knowledge alone, and by giving up all acts that are enjoined by the texts. Therefore, kamya rights and forbidden rights have to be abandoned if moksha is desired, whereas the daily nitya and naimitika rights have to be continued in order to avoid the sin which would accrue from the non-performance of these two. But expectations for their invisible adristya fruit has to be given up. According to Lakshmidhara, such karma leading to moksha is the worship of the Lord, Bhagavad Aradhana. In fact, all acts which are not done as the adoration of God are futile and cause bondage. Therefore, all actions should become an offering to God and should be done without attachment, in the belief that one is not doing anything, but God is acting. Similar ideas have been propagated by the bhakti theoreticians, who have included puja or archana as one of their spiritual practice. The contribution of karma yoga towards liberation, which is finally an act of knowledge, is the purification of the mind, which is a precondition of moksha. If, with intensive devotion, generated through desire for seeking the feet of the lotus-naveled God, a person, by his own mental efforts, cleanses all the dirt and impurities clogged in his heart due to the three gunas or modes, and acts resulting in merit and sin, the soul, which pre-exists there, directly reveals himself in that extremely pure heart, like the light of the sun becomes visible to clear eyes. Performance of more elaborate rites leads to greater purification than that of small rites, and is therefore superior. As the ideal of a person who has achieved liberation while performing acts, karma yoga, the Bhagavad Gita names King Janaka of Videha. A note on mental puja. Mental or manasa puja belongs to the interiorized forms of rituals like mental bath, manasashnana, mental fire sacrifice, manasahoma, or mental repetition of the mantra, manasajapa, which often form part of the inner worship or sacrifice, antaryaga, as opposed to outward or outer worship or sacrifice, bahya yaga, in tantric worship. In the mental pujas, services, upachara, are offered in analogy. In those offered to those offered in the outer puja, there being no difference regarding the items and the sequence of the offerings. The mental puja cannot be thought of without the idea of the outward puja on which it is modeled. But as imagination is unrestricted, more services, and among them rare and expensive ones of the best quality and of any season, may be given. The idol receiving these offerings is a mental one. In tantric forms of puja, the mental puja usually comes first. In the following outer puja, the deity who was worshipped mentally as being present in the devotee's heart comes into the idol or yantra and is worshipped outwardly. Even then, the deity does not cease to be present in the devotee's heart for the time of the outer puja, as a light from which another light has been taken does not cease to burn. Apart from purely tantric works, the Puranas describe the mental worship or the mental puja. Among works in Marathi language, the small treatise Manasa Puja by the Saint Ramdas and a work of the same title attributed to the Saint Vaidya Nagesh are dedicated to this form of worship. Ramdas further treats of Manasa Puja in his Dasabodha in connection with the Archana Bhakti. Manasa Puja is also a theme of stotra literature. That is, Sri Vittala Dhyana Manasa Puja by Kashinath Upadhyaya or Rama Manasika Puja. The famous it should be Venkateshwara Stotram of Devdas in Old Marathi incorporates a mental worship, verses 77. These 16 verses are offered accompanied by the recitation of the Purusha Sukta. Other stotras related to this topic are the Ganesha Manasa Puja Stotram, the Vigneshwara Manasika, Gokarneshwara Manasika Aradhana, Gokarna Manasika Puja. Tradition ascribes to Shankara the Shiva Manasa Puja Stotra, as well as the Mrityunjaya Manasa Puja Stotra in 46 verses. Where a variety of services is offered, especially a great number of food preparations, the famous and very popular Shiva Manasa Puja follows here in translation. So here's the Shiva Manasa Puja, mental puja of Shiva. O God, ocean of compassion, Lord of animals, souls, accept a seat prepared with jewels and a bath of cool water, a heavenly silken garment, ornaments studded with varied jewels, sandalwood paste enriched with the fragrance of musk, flowers consisting of jati, champaka flowers, and bilva leaves, and incense as well as a lamp, all offered in my heart. O Lord, accept in a golden plate, which is prepared with pieces of 9 jewels, ghee, a milk preparation, food of 5 kinds, together with milk and curd, a banana, a drink, a great number of vegetables, tasty water, betel, enriched with pieces of camphor, which I have shaped in my mind with devotion, an umbrella, a pair of chowries, a fan, a spotless mirror, art performances of veena, kettle drum, kahala, singing as well as dancing, prostration with 8 limbs, various kinds of hymns of praise, all that, O Mighty One, I offer in my imagination. O Lord, accept the puja. Myself are you, my mind is Parvati, my vital breaths are your attendants, my body is your house, my enjoyment, one after the other of the objects of the senses, is your puja. My sleep is the state of samadhi, the walking of my feet, the act of circumambulation. All my words are hymns of praise. In brief, whatever action I perform, that all is, O Shiva, your worship. Whatever offense I committed by my hands or my feet, whatever offense occurred from my words or my body or my acts, from hearing, seeing, or whatever offense I committed mentally, whatever consciously or unconsciously, whether consciously or unconsciously, all that forgive me. Victory, victory to you, O ocean of compassion, O noble Mahadeva, O Shiva. In the first three verses of this stotra, the devotee devises items of the best quality as offerings. With the fourth stanza, he offers the bodily functions and activities as acts of worship and his body as Shiva's temple. The last stanza begs forgiveness for offenses committed consciously or unconsciously. Sometimes the offerings of the mental puja are understood symbolically, as in the following passage, which reflects a yogic experience. The lotus of the devotee's heart is offered as the deity's seat, asana. The nectar, amrita, flowing from the Sahasra chakra as water for washing the feet, padya. The mind as argya offering. Again, the nectar flowing from the Sahasra chakra, the Sahasra Dara, as water for sipping, achamaniya. The essence of smell, gandha tattva, as sandalwood paste or scent, gandha. The functions of all the senses and the restlessness of the mind as dance, nritya. Non-injury, ahimsa, forgiveness, etc., as flowers. Lust, kama, and anger, krodha, as Bali offerings. Manasa puja, as other mental acts, is said to be far superior to outer worship. When performed correctly, contrary to outer puja, which may be degraded by a purely mechanical performance, mental puja cannot be done absent-minded. It demands full concentration of one's mind, which can only be achieved by long practice. While outer puja requires the use of utensils and materials to be offered, mental puja can be done independently, could be done independently. But purificatory rites, similar to the ones preceding the outer worship, bathing, cleaning one's teeth, etc., have to be performed mentally first. The actual practice of mental puja is generally connected with outer puja, which follows it. Many texts explain interior and exterior worship as being complementary, to the effect that one should not be performed without the other. As a substitute for outer worship, mental puja is only allowed to, one, trained persons who have the capacity to perform this difficult form of worship, two, householders, in an exceptional case of the total lack of offerings. As long as any kind of substitute can be obtained, the householder is enjoined to use it. And only if nothing can be found, mental puja is prescribed. From the strict monastic position, the performance of puja, which is conditioned by dualism, appears as an act that is finally meaningless. This has occasionally been pronounced. In the well-known Parapuja, attributed to Shankara, that performance of puja appears to be the adequate form of worship where the devotee worships mentally in all outer conditions and at all times, the highest worship. Where summoned by invocation, that which fills all. Where is the seat for the holder of all? Why give water for foot washing or oblation to one who is transparently clear, and water for rinsing the mouth to one who is pure? Why a bath for one free of blemish, and a vestment for one who encompasses all? Why a sacred thread for one who needs no support? Why an ornament for one who is beautiful? Why offer perfume to one without stain? And why offer flowers to one without vasana? Why incense to one free of all scenting, and a light to one who is self-luminous? How can there be a food offering to one ever satisfied, and the after-meal spice to one all-pervading? What fruit offering can there be for the giver of fruits, or gift of the to the Lord of Lakshmi? Why should there be ritual waving of lamps for one who is self-luminous? How a circumambulation of one whose extent is without end? How can there be bowing in the case of one who has no second? How should there be a leave-taking of that which is full both within and without? This verily is the highest worship in all conditions and at all times. Modern trends. In contemporary India, the number of Hindus who regularly perform the lengthy and sometimes complicated rites prescribed by the Dharma Shastras is decreasing. Vedic sacrifices are rarely taking place, and of the series of purificatory rites, samskaras, mainly the Upanayana and the marriage, are now being performed, and even these often in a modern, abridged or changed form, at least in educated sections of urban areas. The performance of puja too is undergoing some changes. There are several reasons for this development. The daily and occasional duties enjoined by the texts are too numerous and too complicated so that, owing to the pressures of modern lifestyle, only few can spare the time that is required for such performances. Most have lost faith in the effects of such rituals and fail to understand their significance. Accordingly, many religious festivals have been reduced to purely social gatherings with excessive eating of sweets. The increasing Western influence has led to the alienation from traditional practices in favor of a sometimes blind imitation of Western customs. In addition, there is often no proper understanding of the significance of the ritual, even on the part of the officiating priests, who sometimes allow the rituals to be degraded to a purely mechanical performance. With the decreasing number of professional priests, it is at times hard to engage people to preside over a ritual. The few available ones often perform their duties hurriedly, being overburdened by work, and according to a frequently mentioned complaint, solely with the gift or dakshina in view. Repeated criticism of the practices connected with idol worship from Christians, Muslims, and groups within Hinduism itself has shaken the faith in the meaning of idol worship and led to attempts at a new interpretation. Idol worship has been severely criticized by Dayananda Saraswati, 1824 to 1883 AD, the founder of the Arya Samaj. In his Satyartha Prakash, 16 Defects of Murti Puja, pages 491, 3 to 493, 4, have been enumerated, most of which are faults ascribed to the pujaris. These are accused of spending the money earned in the temple service for visiting prostitutes, consuming alcohol and meat, items prohibited for Brahmins. They are said to beg for alms in the deity's name, pages 549-2 and 550-27. It is with the effect that their bad behavior has spread everywhere and contributed to the ruin of the country, page 496, 15 to 17. Accordingly, the author suggests the etymological explanation of the word pujari as enemy of puja. Puja plus Ari, page 495, 16 to 18. According to him, the real meaning of puja is honoring, satkar, of respectable people, page 157, 12 to 13, page 407, 11 to 12. And the true meaning of the panchayata puja is honoring 1, mother, 2, father, 3, acharya, 4, a guest possibly possessing noble qualities, and 5, husband or wife by their respective partners, pages 493, 5 to 495, 8. A similar interpretation of puja has been offered by Vinoda Bhave, 1895 to 1982, who states that service rendered to the people, especially to villagers, is idol worship performed in a spirit of bhakti or devotion because the collectivity of people is God. New groups within Hinduism are now favorably disposed towards puja and usually omit it are not favorably disposed towards puja and usually omit it in favor of practices like repetition of a mantra. So mantra japa, okay. So down below in the footnote, it says, in the Vedas, there is not even a syllable about performing murti puja of stones, etc., and the invocation of Ahan and dismissal, visarjana of the highest being. The mantras used for infusing the deity or idol with life, prana pratishta, has come from false tantra books, which are opposed to the Veda. This is obviously according to Dayananda Saraswati Brahma Samaj, Arya Samaj, right? Just as there is not even one mantra in the Veda that has avahana, pranapratishta, an idol or of stone, etc., an object. Likewise, there is no statement, I offer a bath, etc. For criticism of idol worship by groups within Hinduism, see Farquhar, 1950, pages 197 to 297 to 350. Modern trends continue. So what did we say here? Repetition of mantra japa, singing bhajana, and meditation dhyana as the beneficial effects of these practices on the individual's mind can seemingly be experienced easier. Simultaneously, there are efforts to adopt the rituals which are enjoined by the Dharma Shastras to the modern, to adapt, I think she means adapt the rituals which are enjoined by the Dharma Shastras to modern lifestyle and rhythm. Such modernizations mainly concern, one, the authorization or adhikara for the performance, two, the material used, and three, the mode of performance. So, one, traditionally only men belonging to the three upper castes, that is, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, who have acquired the authority to recite the Veda by the Upanayanam ceremony, are entitled to perform the puja with employment of Vedic mantras, whereas women and Sudras are permitted to worship with Puranic mantras, the Namaskara mantra, or without the recitation of mantras. It seems that in olden times, at least in some cases, the Upanayam was also performed for girls, who thereby acquired the right to recite the Veda. But this custom was abandoned in the Indian Middle Ages. Since 1976, a private movement in Pune, known as the Sri Shankar Seva Samiti, led by S.H. Tate, has been trying to reinstall women in their old rights. A considerable number of married women, among them allegedly also non-Brahmins, have been trained in the recitation of Vedic suktas, traditional performance of pujas, and Smarta yajnas to enable them to work as officiating priests. This movement imitates partly the activities of a group of unmarried women of Sakuri, belonging to the Sri Kanyakumari Stan, founded about 60 years ago by a certain Upasani Maharaj. These women are well known for their performance of Vedic recitation according to the tradition of the white or Shukla Yajurveda and their skill in performing Smarta yajnas. These activities, however, are not appreciated by all. So we have a look down here he quoted 417 for the Upanayan of girl Sikane, pages 293 to 295. Altekar, 1956, page 397. Dharma Nirnaya Mandal, page 97, has tried to introduce the Upanayanam for girls again. For the position of women in Brahmanical ritual, see Winternitz, 1920, pages 8 to 15. Okay, so an attempt to meet with the problem of non-availability of priests is made by the publishers of an increasing number of popular do-it-yourself books, which endeavor to enable the individual to perform his own puja without the guidance and supervision of a priest. These books provide all necessary explanations in regional languages, along with a translation of the Sanskrit mantras. Pre-recorded cassettes are also on the market, attempting to serve the same purpose. So, two, in the current pujas, these services, upachara, which are not to hand, are frequently those services which are not to hand, are frequently substituted by an offering of unbroken rice grains, akshata. This is, however, permitted by the text. Utensils used in the worship that were traditionally manufactured of copper, brass, or silver, in accordance with the instructions laid down in the Dharma Shastras, are now often made of stainless steel, just as the kitchen utensils. The authority of the Shastras cannot be consulted in this matter owing to the non-availability of this material at their times. Until recently, Orthodox people did not allow artificial lighting, electric lamps or neon light, in the inner shrines at home or in temples, as it was believed to be harmful. Today, neon light is frequently used in many places, as are also other products of modern civilization, flickering light decorations and loudspeakers. The worshipper's garment, which should consist of 2 pieces of unstitched garment in the case of a man, and a sakacha sari, a sari with a tail, in Marathi called a sardi, in case of women, is not always in accordance with the rule. Often the upper garment is found to be missing or is substituted by the modern stitched shirt. 3. Traditionally, puja is performed by only one member of the joint family who introduces the other members when pronouncing the declaration sankalpa, vow, formula. The Orthodox Hinduism does not know of a congregational worship performed by all members jointly. Exceptional cases seem to be the pujas forming part of the Mangala Gauri Vrata, right, and the Vata Savitri Vrata, where several women worship simultaneously, directed by one priest, but everybody for himself. Admittedly, in imitation of the Christian Mass, the Bharat Samaj, which is synonymous with the Theosophical Society in Adyar, Chennai, introduced a public worship service for Hindus. All these great faiths, that is Hinduism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, deal with their members individually. Each man goes to the temple, makes his own prayers and offerings, and comes away. Thousands may be offering the very same prayers simultaneously, but each is doing so independently of the others. The thought of producing a greater result by joining in a combined effort of devotion seems to have been officially introduced by the world teacher when he found Christianity. It occurred to Mr. Krishnamurti that the Hindu religion was just as capable of performing this wonderful and beautiful act of public service as the Christian. He therefore set to work to have a simple but effective service compiled for public use by bringing together a number of thoroughly well-known prayers and mantras so arranged as to produce the required effect. The type of puja which was the outcome of this reform is said to require no more than 30 minutes' time. The priest, called Advaryu, may be a man or woman of any caste, well trained in the ritual and having devotion. As the leader of the puja, he occupies no superior position, but is considered the first among equals. The ritual itself, although called by the name puja, has been changed considerably and does not even employ the idol murti to which services could be offered. Certain traditional mantras of the puja have been retained but rearranged. They are partly to be pronounced by the priest and partly by the others, by all in chorus. The Bharat Samaj, aiming at the restoration of Hinduism, tried to introduce modernized and abridged forms of other rituals too, which were compiled with the help of Pandit A. Mahadev Shastri. Accordingly, the marriage ceremony, which formerly continued for several days, can be completed within a few hours following this new version. As a result of these activities, a number of booklets appeared like Vedic Upanayana ritual in a simple form, abridged Hindu daily practice, Pinda Shraddha in a simple form, the daily ritual of the Bharata Samaj, Vedic marriage ritual in a simple form. All booklets supply an English translation of the Sanskrit mantras. The Dharma Nirnaya Mandal was a Maharashtrian movement which endeavored to adopt Hindu rituals to the requirements of modern life. founded by Swami Kevalanand Saraswati, Vai Maharashtra, Dundiraj Dikshit Bapat, and Pandit Raghunath Shastri Kokje, as Tattva Nishta Parivartana Vadi Parishad in Thane near Bombay in 1934. The organization had its office at Lonavale from 1938 and has been transferred to the premises of the Jnana Prabodhini Pune in 1976. The founders aimed at creating simplified forms of the rituals based on the rulings enjoined by traditional Dharmashastras that could easily be performed by all Hindus. The booklets with the newly compiled prayogas include Upanayanam, to which girls are also considered entitled, Vivaha, marriage, Andyeshti, funeral rites, Shraddha, rites related to the dead, Vidhava, Punavivaha, remarriage for widows, Hindu Karana, conversion to Hinduism. When the office of the organization was transferred to the Jnana Prabodhini, its concepts changed with the new persons who took charge of it, and the rituals were modified to the effect that in some cases the newly created rituals have nothing in common with the traditional ones except for the name. Only the Vivaha Prayoga and the Antyeshti Prayoga were reprinted with slight alterations in the form, which have been created by the Dharma Nirnaya Mandal, whereas the members of the Jnana Prabodhini reformed and printed, according to their own concepts, Dynam Ridani, Ridina, Dynam Dina, Upasana, daily worship, Upanayana Vidihi, Varsharambadina Upasana, worship on the first day of the year, Varshantadina Upasana, worship on the last day of the year, Yantra Pujan, worship of the machines or tools, Sri Ganesha Stapana Puja Vidi, establishment and worship of the temporary idol of Ganesh, and others. The Prana Pratishta ceremony was completely reinterpreted, as many modern educated Hindus have lost faith in idol worship and attempt at interpretation of an idol as a mere symbol. The new form of the Upanayana, which, according to the introduction of the Prayoga text, requires only 1 hour and 45 minutes time, is said to have been performed since 1973 in the Jnana Prabodhini. Important characteristics of the new mode of worship propagated by the Jnana Prabodhini are as follows. Number one, all devotees participate in the ritual. Accordingly, the offering formulas are changed from the traditional singular formulas to plural ones. It is believed that an understanding of literal meaning of the employed Sanskrit mantras by everyone is essential. Therefore, the Marathi translation of mantras is not only provided in the printed text, but read aloud along with the Sanskrit mantras. According to an ancient belief, it is only the sound of especially the Vedic mantras which is important, and not the literal meaning of the mantra. The members of the Jnana Prabodhini, however, are of the opinion that only the meaning of the mantras is significant. These mantras are being recited in musical tunes, accompanied by the Indian harmonium and other instruments. So there's a note here. The view that the use of recitation of the Veda is a spiritual one and that the mantras are not to convey a meaning is elaborately discussed and refuted in Shayana's preface to his Rig Veda Bhashya. See also go on to 1963, page 276 for a discussion. So, 2, utensils and materials used in the ritual are limited. 3, the ritual is claimed to be open to everybody. Only such mantras are said to have been employed which refer to the god worshipped by all religions, omitting those that refer to sectarian divinities. From the previously described attempts of the Bharata Samaj and the Jnana Prabodhini, one especially notices that the new forms of ritual are created primarily to effect something. Thus, the program of the Bharata Samaj states explicitly that well-known prayers and mantras have been arranged as to produce the required effect. Bharata Samaj and Ganapa Bodhini further claim to have created an economic worship service which achieves maximum of effect in a minimum of time. Thereby, they seem to have to overlook the original meaning of the religious worship, which lies in praising and serving God and allowing the individual to grow spiritually in such an atmosphere. The emphasis laid on the translation of the Sanskrit mantras reveals the overimportance attached to a rational understanding of the ritual, which by its nature is concerned with the whole person, both body with all its senses and mind, and transcends the logical level of the mind. A rational understanding of the ritual is not required, especially not a historical knowledge about the development of the symbols. And such an understanding is hardly found on the part of the worshipper, who performs religious acts in the prescribed manner, the prescription coming from a religious authority. As a side effect, this modern development leads to independence from the priestly class, which, by the performance or supervision of rites that seemed unintelligible to the majority of people, has been in possession of a means to exercise power. However, religious reforms should be carried out by capable persons, possessing talent and knowledge for translating the mantras, a gift for creating new forms, and experience. Time, place, and utensils involved in the acts are not exterior ornaments, but elements of the whole, and have to be realized as such. The sequence of the various parts is determined by the logic of inner meaning. Its change is just as impossible as it would be in some other ordinary sphere. In this sense, some of the above-mentioned reforms can perhaps not be called successful attempts. According to the reformed versions of the rituals of the Jnana Bodhini have been criticized accordingly, right, as tiring since the Sanskrit text with Marathi translation is being read. Time will show whether the new forms of puja will be able to survive. The Vivaha Prayoga in the version of the Dharma Nirnaya Mandal, 1939, is widely used at present. Due to increasing Western influence, the alienation from traditional culture, presently, many Hindus are not even aware of the existing difference between traditional practices and the newly created forms.
Om Namo Narayanaaya